Hello friends, this is Singh for Hitbullseye.com. Today in our history series we'll be discussing about ancient history and to be more specific about the pre-Mauryan history. The topics of discussion for today are firstly the Stone Age, the Indus Valley Civilization that is more popularly called as the Harappan Civilization, Vedic Age and the two religions of Jainism and Buddhism. Talking about the Stone Age, since the Homo sapien came into being, the Stone Age has been started. We start the Stone Age from the Paleolithic Age, and that is the period of about 5 to 1 lakh BC. Whenever we discuss about different ages in the Stone Age, namely the Paleolithic, the Mesolithic, Neolithic, these are all regarding a particular occupation, the human occupation, and also the tools that have been used for that particular occupation. In the Paleolithic Age, the period of 5 to 1 lakh BC, the main occupation was that of hunting and food gathering, the most basic of occupations. And to perform these basic occupations, simple stone tools were being used by the Homo sapien. The basic examples or locations where we can find the examples of Paleolithic Age are that of Bhimbetka caves. After the Paleolithic Age, we discuss the Mesolithic Age. You must have seen that whenever we talk about lithic, lith as a word means stone itself. Hence, as the age progresses, the type of stone or the type of tool also progresses. In the Mesolithic Age, which is more popularly called as transitional age, as a transitional stage, this is the period of about 9000 BCs. And in this age, the means of occupation being little more refined, hunting and little more refined food gathering, but the tools of these occupations were again some stones. In the Mesolithic Age, we started using stones which were pointed, but to be very careful, they were only pointed, they were not polished. Next stage is called the Neolithic. Now the word neo itself means new, and lith, as we have already discussed, means stone. In the Neolithic Age, we started using polished stones. Here we have to differentiate between using polished stones and using unpolished stones as those in the Mesolithic Age. Polished stones are much endurable and hence are considered as a better tool for the means of occupation. The means of occupation in Neolithic Age were again agriculture, but it was compounded by domestication of animals. This domestication of animals helped us in easy agriculture, plowing and other activities. The example of Neolithic Age is that of Mehergarh, a place. The next is the Chalcolithic Age. Now Chalcolithic Age in some texts has been clubbed with Neolithic Age, but in other instances we look at it in a different manner. Now in the Chalcolithic Age, good use of agriculture is being done, and when we talk about the tools, we started using copper tools. Copper in the Chalcolithic Age was the first metal to be used. It was not iron, it was not any other metal, it was copper that the Homo sapien made use of as a metal first. After copper, we again had the other bronze and other metals. In the Chalcolithic Age, the Homo sapien or the human being became so developed that he started some kind of art. And we find examples of painted pottery in the Chalcolithic Age. Next is the Indus Valley Civilization. Now, as we've earlier discussed, Indus Valley Civilization is also called as the Harappan Civilization. Why is this civilization called as the Indus Valley Civilization? Because of the river Indus. We all know what is the Indus Basin, consisting of 5 rivers, Indus itself plus the Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas and Satluj. All the sites of Indus Valley Civilization have been centered around the Indus River. Whenever we study about various civilizations throughout the world, they've always been associated with a particular river. In our case, it is the Indus River. Now, it has been in existence in 2500 to 1800 BCs, but we came to know about, or we discovered about the Indus Valley Civilization only in the year 1921. This year 1921 is very important for Indian history, which we again look forward to in our next lectures. The Indus Valley Civilization was discovered by Dr. D.R. Sahni and R.D. Banerjee. These were part of the Archaeological Survey of India. Now, when we discuss about the Indus Valley Civilization, the first and the foremost thing that we look about is the kind of development that the people of Indus Valley Civilization had taken up. We find examples of burnt bricks. We find examples of scientific town planning. Their town planning was so good that they employed the most efficient means of town planning. For example, roads cutting at 90 degrees in a grid pattern. So that was the bestest example of town planning that we have come across the civilizations or across the ancient civilizations of the world. We've also examples of great granaries to store the grains, and the biggest granary that we have found is that in Harappa. We have also come across a very efficient sewage system or a drainage system. Now this is also an example of scientific town planning, and those drains were covered. So from these examples we come to know that the Harappan Valley or the Indus Valley Civilization people were quite aware of how to keep themselves up in a better and a sanitized manner. The next activity was that of business activity. Now we come to know about their business activity from a port. The Harappans or the people of Harappan Valley Civilization maintained a port at Lothal. Lothal was a port in the state of present day Gujarat. The Harappans traded with other parts of the world, and more importantly with the Romans themselves. The Harappan Valley Civilization people also worshipped gods and goddesses, and the most famous god they worshipped was that of Pashupati. Talking about the levels of development, they had developed efficient means of weights and measures so as to perform the trade in a better efficient manner. Talking about the main centers of Harappan Valley Civilization, it was Harappa itself from where the name evolved. Since it is called the Harappan Valley Civilization, Harappa was the first place to be discovered in 1921 by Dr. Sahni and R.D. Banerjee. Hence it is called the Harappan Valley Civilization. Other than Harappa, we have Mohenjo-daro, we have Channu-daro, we have Banawali, Lothal and Sutka-Gendor. Among these, Mohenjo-daro, Channu-daro and Sutka-Gendor are not in the present day India. They are in the present day Pakistan, and to be more specific, in the Sindh and the Balochistan provinces. The Indian sites, that is Harappa, is present in the present day Punjab, Banawali in present day Haryana, and Lothal, as we've already discussed, a port city in the present day Gujarat. Talking about the level of development of the Harappans, but after the coming of Chalcolithic age and during the Harappan Valley Civilization, people started indulging into art and culture. To be specific about Harappan Valley Civilization, the Harappans indulged in art and culture of the following forms. Firstly, they developed figurines and figures. They also developed sculptures, and you must have heard about terracotta seals. That was also a characteristic of art and culture of the Harappan Valley Civilization. They've also discovered the means of pottery. Black and red pottery was a characteristic of Harappan Valley Civilization. Talking about how we came to know about various things that we have discussed about Harappan Valley Civilization, about their art and culture, about the sites, about the town planning, about the weights and measures. How do we come to know about that? The Harappan Valley Civilization people had developed their own script. Script was named as Bostrofedron, and even though the script has not been fully deciphered, but still it has been very helpful for us in deciphering what the Harappan people used to indulge in, what kind of activities did they do. Till the coming of about 1800 BCs, the Harappan Valley Civilization started to decline. Now, there has not been a particular reason why the Harappan Valley civilization declined. It is only a speculative theory that there might be multiple reasons. Some say that it was the tectonic reasons, namely volcanoes or earthquakes, because of which the Harappan Valley civilization got wiped away. Some say it was the attack of the Aryans, because of which the Harappan Valley civilization got wiped away. Some say it is the flood or drought that happened during the period due to which the civilization got wiped away. But till date, no specific and no confirmatory experience has been told about the decline of Harappan Valley civilization. This was all about the Harappan Valley civilization. Talking about the things beyond Harappan Valley civilization, and the most important thing that has occurred to the Indian history or to the Indian ancient history has that been of the Vedic period. This is the period, to be more specific, in the ranges of about 1500 to 500 BC. This Vedic period has been started with the invasion of Aryans. Before the Aryans, the type of people that used to live in our country were called the Dasis and Dasyus. The Aryans subjugated the Dasis and Dasyus and started their own age in the country. All the Vedic knowledge about the Vedas, about the Aryans, has been derived from the Vedic literature. Now, Vedic literature, among the Vedic literature, the most important thing has been that of the four Vedas. We'll discuss about the four Vedas separately. Along with the four Vedas has been the Brahmanas and also the Aranyakas. A collection of all Vedic literature is called the Shrutis. Now, talking about Rig Veda. Rig Veda is a collection of prayers, and Rig Veda is considered to be the oldest text in the world. Along with Rig Veda, there is another text which is also considered to be the oldest text, that is called the Zend Avesta. This is an Iranian text, and we've also found evidences of similarities between the Rig Veda and the Zend Avesta. So these two are contemporary and the oldest text in the human history. The Rig Vedas describe about the social, the economic and the political condition of the times. What those conditions were, we'll discuss that too. Talking about the other four Vedas. Firstly, we've discussed about the Rig Veda. Secondly, the Samveda. Then is the Yajur. And the fourth is the Atharva. Now, Samveda decides how a particular prayer that has been given in the Rig Veda has to be recited. There has to be a particular means by which a particular prayer given in the Rig Veda has to be recited, and that is given in the Samveda. Talking about the Yajur Veda. Yajur Veda tells us about what kind of rituals have to be performed while performing a prayer in the Rig Veda. And lastly, the Atharva Veda. Atharva Veda tells us about the kinds of things that have to be performed to ward away evils or also diseases. Talking a bit about the social life of the Vedic times. Now, the social life of the Vedic times was decided by the political condition itself. In the Vedic times, the Aryans had four political assemblies, namely the Vidhata, the Gana, the Sabha and the Samiti. These four councils or assemblies decided how the social conduct of the Aryans and how the economic conduct of the Aryans would be. Regarding the social conduct of the Aryans and also the economic conduct of the Aryans, it was all centered around the cattle. Cattle has been called as Gau. All the economic activities, all the wars or battles were because of the reason of cattle. All the social activities were again because of the reason of cattle. So the Vedic age or the Vedic period, the activities of that period were centered all around the cattle. After the Vedic age ended, there were some kind of, or in the later Vedic age, there were some kind of things that had happened due to which the people of the times were quite demotivated. The biggest reason was that of the Varna system. As you all know, in the later Vedic ages, our society got divided into 4 varnas. And it is natural that people of the lower varna would be disenchanted with the present or with the condition of those time, and they would always be attracted towards newer things which would promise them some kind of social or political or economic equalitarianism. And because of the Vedic ages and the ills of the Vedic ages, more specifically the Varna system, 2 new religions took birth in the country. The most important of these religions that took birth in the country was Jainism and Buddhism. To talk about Jainism, Jainism has been about 24 Tirthankaras. The first was Rishabhnath and the last was Mahavir Jain. It was Mahavira Jain who had collected all the Jain literature and collected all the Jain practices and evolved a new religion. Talking about Mahavira Jain, he was born in 540 BC in Vaishali, Kshatriya prince, and he gave the Three Ratna theory about Jainism. He said a person who would follow the principles of Jainism has to have right knowledge, right belief and right conduct. His 5 doctrines were Ahimsa, that is non-violence, Satya, that is to speak the truth, Asteya, that is not to steal, Apagriha, that is not to have property, and Brahmacharya, to have or to promote continence. To streamline the Jain thought or the Jainism school of thought, there were 2 Jain councils held. The first was in Patliputra and the second was in Vallabhi. In these councils, all the Jain practitioners came together and established their own school of thought. But as we all know, in any religion there would always be difference of thoughts. The same occurred in Jainism too. The Jainism sect got divided into 2 parts, namely the Shwetambaras and the Digambaras. The Shwetambaras were those who stayed in the northern parts of the country, and the Digambaras were those who moved on to the southern parts of the country. And lastly, the thing about Jainism, or the text or literature about Jainism, is that it is written in Prakrit. Now, the issue with Prakrit literature was, in the future, Jainism could not propagate to various lengths and breadths as other religions would propagate. The main reason for that is because the text was in Prakrit, which was already a dying language. And hence, Jainism got a stronghold and established itself in the country, although in a limited manner. Next is Buddhism. When we discuss about Buddhism, we have to know about the main practitioner or the establisher of the religion of Buddhism, that is Gautam Buddha. Gautam Buddha was born in 563 BC. Now compare this with Jainism. These 2 are contemporary religions, born together and propagated together. Gautam Buddha was born in a Shakya Kshatriya family in Lumbini. The Kshatriya family was, again, when we read about Jainism, the Mahavira Jain was again born in Kshatriya family, just to remind you. His father's name was Sudhodan and his mother's name was Mahamaya. Gautam Buddha left home at the age of 29 and wandered about to attain enlightenment under a peepal tree at a place called Bodh Gaya at the age of 35. And after Bodh Gaya, he delivered his first sermon at a place called Sarnath. Now, what are the teachings of Buddhism? Buddhism tells us to follow the Madhya Marg, that is the middle way. And this Madhya Marg can be followed by practicing a particular marg that is called the Ashtangika Marg. What this Ashtangika Marg is, we'll discuss it in the next slide. The 3 main elements of Buddhism are Buddha himself, that is the ultimate God, the Sangha and the Dhamma. Sangha is the collection of Buddhist monks and Dhamma is the collection of Buddhist practitioners. Buddhist literature has to be in Pali. And when we talk about Buddhist literature, there have been 3 main collections of books which are popularly called as Pitakas. For example, the Sutta Pitaka, the Vinaya Pitaka These are the Pitakas or the books about Buddhism. When we talked about Jainism, there were 2 councils held. When we talk about Buddhism, there were 4 councils held, namely in Rajgriha, Vaishali, Patliputra and Kundavalam, in this particular order. We were discussing about the Ashtangika mark of Buddhism. That Ashtangika mark comprises of right observation, right determination, right action, right speech, livelihood, exercise, memory and lastly meditation. By following this eightfold path or the Ashtangika marg, we can follow or we can really come to know about how a Buddhist thinks or Buddhist practices are being followed. Friends, this is all about the pre-Mauryan history that we have. In our next video, in our next lecture, we'll discuss about the post-Mauryan history. Thank you.